Kalimera, Kalispera, whatever time you are watching, this is Mappa. We've got a very, very special episode planned right now. And I'm going to leave it to my esteemed host or co-host, Thaso.
Yes, hello there. How are you doing?
Why are you asking me this question when you know I'm stressed out?
Okay,
It's
all right,
motherfucker.
Well, okay. No, pleasantries and whatnot. When we're recording, we need to show that we're all pals and great. But we've also got a guest. So we've got Luka, also known as @Georgian Footy on Twitter/X.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, we've got that conversation to have as well.
Yeah.
But yeah. Look, how are you doing?
I'm all right. Thank you for having me on the show. It's definitely a pleasant feeling to be involved in this kind of discussion with guys who follow football from Cyprus. So, yeah, man, hopefully it will be decent, like 30, 40, 50 minutes for us to discuss and see how the draw pans out for either Dila Gori or Apoel in you guys' case. So
Yes, yep, exactly. Do you want to throw some plugs up at the front of the podcast? I like to think people are listening here, so you might as well do your promotions up at the front.
nothing too much.
No. Well, @Georgian Footy on Twitter.
Yeah. Twitter @Georgian Footy, which is right there. You can follow me on Twitter, and that's basically the only way to contact me if any inquiries are going on. And yeah, that's all good on my side.
Okay, all right. So let's launch into it. So obviously, we've brought you in to talk about the match between Apoel and Dila Gori that's happening on Thursday. We're recording this on Tuesday night for people. We've just seen the final score between Aris and Rakov. So it's a 2-1 win for Rakov. But yeah, we'll move on from that. So I think to start off with is that there's like a history between the two countries, Cyprus and Georgia. A lot of Georgian players have kind of made their name in Cyprus, haven't they? So we've got Timuri gets by as the big one, isn't it? So obviously big Georgian. He played at Anorthosis at Apoel. He went to Newcastle. Stel, if you want to line up that celebration when you do the edit.
No, not now.
No.
But yeah, obviously, he then went on to do a lot of stuff coaching wise. Anorthosis at the Georgian national team as well. At Apoel, at a few teams at the national team for Cyprus as well. So obviously, he's got a very big name in Cyprus. I'm guessing that's the same in Georgia too.
Definitely. As a player, as a coach, and as just a fellow Georgian, because he has got that. One of the things with him is like he could be annoyed at times, and you could sense by his character. He's a charismatic person, but there's no denying that he loves his country and that he respects his country. So, that's all that matters, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely someone who's won a lot of hearts for on and off the football pitch, to be fair, in Georgia and in Cyprus, I reckon, because he's made a mark with Anorthosis, especially making them to qualify to the Champions League as well, being a good player for them as well. So that's our approach to Timuri, who's a largely respectable man and former football player and a head coach.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Stel doesn't agree so much with the coaching side of things.
Listen, I have my reservations about him. I'm not going to go into it, but I'm just intrigued to see how he's going to get on with the Cypriot national team, because we've obviously got a lot of young players in the under-21s that are thriving at various clubs outside of Cyprus. And it'll be interesting to see if he's going to call them up to the first team or if he's going to continue to play the Anorthosis rejects. But
well, I mean, there's that, and as well, it kind of gave the game to Georgia by playing 6 defenders. in the first 11. So it was
Well, I don't blame him. I don't blame him. They got one of the best strikers in the world, for crying out loud.
Yep. At the moment,
You know?
there's a lot of people watching him at the moment, isn't there?
Luka, let me ask you something about it. Do you know Gacharava? Does that name ring a bell for you?
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
I know.
So he's Ketspaya's godson.
Yeah, he's a Cypriot. He's got a Cypriot citizenship, doesn't he? Because I think he's born in Cyprus. I think so.
He's born in Nicosia. So I remember not last season, the year before. I remember Anorthosis beat Omonia 1-0, and he scored the winner. And a few days later, he was spotted with Kvilitaya. I can't remember which game it was, and something then happened.
He was spotted with Kashia rooting for Kvilitaya, I think it was.
Right.
Well, versus it wasn't Omonia, definitely wasn't Omonia, but I think it was, God Almighty, was it not Apollon? I can't really remember, to be fair. But I know what you're referring to. They celebrated Kvilitaya scoring, and then he got released by the club.
What was the story in Georgia about this situation? Because what we understand is a little bit grainy. They had a bit of a love-hate relationship, and that was a time when Anorthosis had Kyle Lafferty as a striker as well. This journeyman, he
was an Irish guy. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so they got rid of him, and they got rid of Gacharava, and we thought, what's happening here? Was this reported in Georgia now?
Yeah, it was. I mean, the thing was, the video that actually went viral, it began in Georgia, and it was like, two Georgians sit in the stands in front of the Georgian. But they was like, you should not post this, because if he was your teammate and you're just sitting in the seats because, well, you're either injured or you're not able to play, fair enough. But you play for the other team you play for a rival team, basically. And obviously, he's your friend and you want him to do well, but at this moment, he plays for another team, for a rival team that's competing with you in the same division. So, in my eyes, this may sound kind of rude, but it's kind of stupid to post that kind of thing to begin, because it's like, what should you do that? You don't really have to. It went viral here as well. In a different kind of case, it was like, oh, they're so nice watching their fellow countrymen play for another team who scored and blah blah blah. Was like, it's not something to post on social media, because how big social media is, how bad it could turn out to player, and it certainly backfired, because a video that was, I think it was like a 10 or 15 second video, was it? Just basically costed him his time at a club. So I do believe that was a stupid move for him to do, and he paid for it. Definitely paid for it.
Big time. But you know, for all of Ketspaya's flaws, put it that way, I must admit his comedy value is off the scale. I'll never forget. It was during the pandemic, and the season had around about COVID time. So it was the new season, and Anorthosis played on Monia, and there's no fans in the stadium. And there's one point where the ball's gone down the line, and all you can hear is Ketspaia going, "You fucking idiot!"
He could be kind of arrogant. Yeah, I mean, it's no surprise. Even in Georgia, with there was a time when he got criticized a lot. But to be fair, I mean, you have to say that even his time in Georgia, when he was acquired as the new head coach for Georgia national team, he had like the longest unbeaten streak of 10 games, which was broken last year. But the players he had was probably the worst ever lineup he could have ever fielded with Georgian players, because the player pool was so poor. I remember we faced Cyprus, that was in 2008, and then in 2009, I think it was. We drew 1-1 in Georgia, and we lost 3-2 or 2-1 in Cyprus that year. Basically, although the scoring doesn't really portray the game, you guys played us at the park. And that time, Georgia was probably at its lowest. And the players he had were probably, right now, I reckon 95% of them would even made the bench for the team we have right now. So he was unlucky in a certain way. And the play style he played was like this: 4 at the back with 3 defensive midfielders, only 2 strikers, just one /AM/CM who could have distributed ball out wide. So he didn't really have many resources to build a proper team, which eventually ended up in him having a team that was ugly to watch, had no creativity, didn't really get the results after that 1 or 2 years of somewhat success. And he got a lot of hate for it. But credit what is due, he was saying stuff about club football, about national team, and about the way the country works in a bad way. And he was, in 80% of them, was right. He said, like, if you want your club football to succeed, businessmen should be interested in financing it, media should be interested in raising awareness of the clubs, of the league, so on and so forth. And even now, like, our club football is suffering a lot because we failed to, like, Dila Gori are the first team that made through the 3rd round of the Conference League for the first time in good 3 years, 4 years, which is a big time, especially if you have like 4 teams competing. It's a big time. So he was, he's, you know, the perception about him is like this: he knows football, but he's a bad manager, but not as a head coach, as bad in terms of management. Like, he's not
man management. Like,
he's not a man manager. He's definitely not a man manager. He knows a bit about football. He knows how to motivate his guys. He knows how to have discipline in his team, because he was super strict with players who, at times, they never turn up into national team training camps. It was like, if you don't want to play for your country, you don't deserve to be called up. And he's right about that. I'd argue that that's definitely something to stand for, because not everyone is getting the call to the national team, and that's a huge privilege to have. And if you don't want to play for the team, the doors are definitely shut to you. So, in a certain way, as Tasso said, like, he's a bad man manager, but he knows a bit about football. He knows a bit about discipline, about good attitude and stuff like that. So that's his strengths and his weaknesses kind of balances his character out, which A, may be a bit arrogant, but B, he knows what he's doing. If he has all the tools and all the resources necessary for him to succeed. And that's, I guess I could be biased because it's Georgian. I could be well biased, but I think if you really look into his past and his career, that's the sort of way, that's the sort of perception you might end up with about Tomori. So,
Yeah, I mean, Tomori gets by is. I think that's kind of the sentence there, isn't it? He just is.
Yeah.
But this is not the Tomori Gets By podcast, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna move us to the scouting kind of part of the thing, because people, when they hear Georgian football, there's a couple of teams really that they really know, like Dynamo Tbilisi and Torpedo Kutaisi. At least those are the two that I know kind of offhand. So people don't really know Dila Gori, who are playing Apoel so much. They don't know the team. So, I mean, do they have a history in football, or are they like newcomers with investment? What's the story behind the club?
To start with, actually, the first time Dila Gori played European football, they actually faced Anorthosis in 2012 in the third qualifying of the Europa League, and they beat Anorthosis on aggregate 3-1, which is a huge shock as well, I think, because Anorthosis at the time was, on paper at least, by far the most superior side. But those were the days when, how to put this, Dila Gori were funded by the Ministry of Internal Affairs of Georgia at the time. So they had a bit of money. They had also financial resources to bring in some new players, some youngsters, some like seasoned vets who played at outside Georgia, more Georgian internationals and so on. And the team they had was a proper team. They've beat Aarhus, they've beat Maritimo before you guys, so that was a decent team. After that, the season after, they had a bit of financial struggles. Although they did make the playoffs of the Europa League once again, and they played Rapid Vienna, I think it was. They lost both games, but it was kind of close. They bounced around this 3rd to 6th place in the league for good 2-3 years. They won the championship in 2015. And later on, again, they kind of, because of how inconsistent the funding is in Georgia, they went a bit down. And nowadays, in 2017, they've been bought by an Israeli company who they don't really invest much, but the thing they do, they're trying to bring in loads of foreigners per transfer window, and they try to filter them out, basically. Maybe every single year, there are like 10 or 12 new foreigners coming in, and like 2 or 3 of them may stay, may not. Even 2, maybe even the maximum number. And recently, one of the good things they did, they found that bridge between signing somewhat decent but cheap players, foreign and local players, and the core of the team and like the star performers of the team are foreigners right now. Thierry Gale is one of them, who's actually linked with the move to Rakov, the team Aris faced just half an hour ago. I think it was 20 minutes ago. Alex Santos as well, also linked with the move to Poland. So there are 3 or 4 very decent players in that group, and I'm convinced that they will not stay in Georgia for that long.
So, with the 2 players that you mentioned,
yeah,
how quick do transfers work in Georgia? Like, obviously, there's been this link.
Yeah.
Is it going to be like, say, a done deal next week, or are they going to be there for, say, both legs of the game? Let's say.
Yeah, I mean, I think typically teams try to keep hold of the players until the rest of the qualifiers. So as long as you go, the player's going to stay with you. So I reckon if Dila manages to, let's say, beat Apoel by the end of the tie, the players will still be here. And the next opponent is either Ghent or Pogoń, I think it is, from Poland as well. So probably I would suggest the player's going to stay here until the qualifiers, until the end of the qualifiers, which is on the 28th of August, I think it is, or something like that. So
Okay.
That's the way at least I see it, and that's the way it works. Not only in Georgia, I guess, but everywhere else.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen some movements all over the place that you wouldn't necessarily expect during a qualification campaign. But no, that makes sense. So, I mean, we talked about Dila Gori's past. We've got the present day for them. So we talked about a couple of their important players already. The season in Georgia is different from the season in Western Europe, where the season starts in the winter and then goes over. So is it from March till November?
Early December, late November. Depends if their game's rescheduled, because this year we had the Under-21 tournament and 21 Euros. Mm-hmm. So obviously that a good 2 or 3 weeks have been allocated to that tournament. Obviously the games had to be switched and put in tied together. So it's going to be until the end of November or by the beginning of December. Yeah.
So at the moment in Georgia, we're in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
And at the moment, I think Dila Gori are in 5th.
True. So but it's kind of tight in there. So I mean, a win or 2 basically gets you to position like 2nd or 3rd. So that's not.
So would you say they're underachieving at the moment, or they're overachieving, or they're about where they're supposed to be?
I wouldn't say so, because the teams above them are solid. So I think we have to touch this topic as well, like what are the strengths and the weaknesses. I'm going to go from that to the question you asked me is like Dila Gori. They haven't really got. I've spoke with their owners last season, and they told me that they have got the 9th biggest budget in a 10 league team. But despite that, they make qualifiers every single season. So that gives you a sense that although they haven't really got much money, they know how to work with that kind of money. Mm-hmm. And the players that they sign are typically either some mediocre domestic players and some fringe foreign players. So try to keep the budget kind of low, the payroll kind of low. So inevitably they've accustomed to that system and brought players that suit the style of the coach. And the results they've been getting is in the qualifiers is kind of nice. It's great. But I reckon, I'm not sure if any of you guys have watched the games, but although the teams they faced were better on paper, financially, historically, Dila Gori were the better side in all 4 games they played. much more ball possession, much more chances. But that, like, the difference in quality pays a lot because it comes down to quality, I guess, because you might have like 3 or 4 chances per game and you may score 1, but the opposite team might have like 2 chances and they must score 2. So that's the sort of difference. And I guess that will be a factor between Apoel and Dila as well, because Dila haven't got quality. They have got the game style. They have got a system that works. They have got the players that work inside the system, but the resource is quite limited. The bench is quite short, and the players off the bench aren't really that good as well. So you have to consider those kind of factors, which I think, and I've saw it, so that's what I'm saying, is because that will be a factor, especially like after the 70th or 75th or the 80th minute when the teams get tired and they try to bring in new players, which could be the X factors off the bench. In this case, they haven't really got too many resources, too many players off the bench to bring in and be that game-changing factor for them. But we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
So in that sense, then, would we be expecting them to kind of put more pressure kind of at the beginning of the game to try and...
Yeah. I mean, the game style they play is attacking. They try to press a lot, try to play diagonal balls, try to be quick. The wingers they've got also quick, and they try to just like, I'm not sure if you played Football Manager, but like inverted winger kind of things when they cut inside and overlapping balls with the right and the left back. So that's the sort of game plan they try to do, because football is like that. And like, if you don't attack, you're not going to score. If you're not going to score, you're not going to win. So that's the mentality they're rolling in. The back line is the weakest spot. Well, it was the weakest spot for the whole season, and they definitely know that. So again, they try to score at least one time more than the opponent does. So that's the sort of game they try to roll with: attacking, pressing, diagonal football, ball possession, and all sorts of things like that.
Luka, I find it interesting that you mentioned that they like to play diagonal balls and they like to use the wide men, because Apoel's main strength, from what we've seen this season, in my opinion, are the fullbacks that love to get forward. And one of them, Chebak, who Tasso doesn't really rate too highly, but
listen, he's rubbish as a right back, but as a left back, he seems to be starring. So
even though he's actually a right back, but it's bizarre. But he's kind of in this system deployed by Sapinto, in the sense that they will have their fullbacks bombing forward, and then they end up in centre forward positions. But what they also do when they're pressing, you'll have one holding midfielder and 2 central midfielders just pushing up high to support the 3 front men. So effectively, they're pressing with 5. But when they're on the ball, I find it interesting, because both of the central midfielders, if the ball's on the right-hand side, the right central midfielder will follow the right-hand side. The left central midfielder will go on the left-hand side. And they leave these gaps open in the middle of the field, almost saying, come and attack us, but we've got one holding midfielder there, Kostadinov, that can protect. But they're susceptible to counterattacks. And we've seen it in the 2 games that they played against the Vojvodina, that they can be caught on the counter. So these diagonal balls into the channels where there's unoccupied spaces could hurt them.
But definitely, because as I mentioned before, the star player for this team, Thierry Gale, he's a left winger. So and the playstyle he plays, like, if whenever you got time to watch some of the highlights I posted about Dila's last game, is like the goals he scored was as well like a diagonal ball from the right side to the left towards Gale, chested down to one touch, finished. The second was the finish. So those sort of players that Dila trying to make this overlapping runs on the diagonal. And if that's one of the weaker spots for Apoel, definitely Dila will try to exploit them. And I guess the game style the play is kind of fitting to that and countering that game style that Apoel plays. But again, I'm pretty sure Apoel have studied Dila, so they know what their strengths and weaknesses might be, and we could see a switch in game plan and the game style. So it's definitely something to be aware of, but we'll obviously have to wait and see how the teams try to operate in that end. But again, like out of all the games I've watched Dila this season, that's the typical style they play. Try to play out wide, try to play as much, try to give the wingers as much ball as possible. So I guess that will be the game plan against Apoel from the first minute, basically.
Okay. So yeah, I'm a little bit worried because the system that Sapinto likes to play seems to need a 3-man central defense, but he doesn't have the staff for that.
Yeah.
Which is, and I think that's why there's this counter-attacking. There's this why they're so open to the counter-attack. And I think as well by you saying that, you know, they're like the wingers, they like to bomb forward and the diagonal passes. If you've got that 3-man defense, that kind of blocks that a bit more. It squeezes the space for runners running in, especially if that 3-man defense is organized. So, yeah, I mean, on Apoel's side, obviously, we're going to be looking for Philly Dyer to be performing well. I mean, we've seen it last season. He works very, very hard for the team. Didn't get on the score sheet as much as I think he or Apoel fans would have wanted. But yeah, we're hoping that that's going to change this season. And obviously, another Georgian connection is Diwali in the centre of defence for Apoel. I was a bit negative about him last year. He seemed to be whenever he played, he seemed to be a bit of a weakness in that central defensive position. Again, there's another player who's improved. Is improved leaps and bounds within this new formation. He seems to be doing well. So we've got a Georgian team. We've got a couple of Georgian players, and instead of the stadium at at Gori, which is I think it's only 5,000 people.
Yeah, somewhere like 4.5.
Yeah. They've decided to move the game to the national stadium.
Yeah.
Now, are you aware of what the reasoning is behind that? Are they expecting to fill the stadium, or?
No. The main reason is because Dila Gori Stadium does not meet the UEFA's requirements for the third qualifying round.
Right. Okay. Right.
Although it's kind of weird because I remember in 2017 they changed a bit about the stadium because that stadium hosted the under-17 Euros final, under-19 Euros final. So it should have allowed Dila to play there up until the playoffs, but I think it's because of the amount of seats that are in the stadium, because you need over like 6,000. I think it's something like that. I may be mistaken on this one, but I know that's the reason why they're not playing in Gori. They've moved to the Dinamo Arena in Tbilisi, but they're only like 12,000 seats have been sold, are out to sell. Definitely it's not going to be a sellout. Physically can't be a sellout because there are not too many tickets out for sale.
So they've only released 12,000, or there's more than 12,000 available?
Yes, some are 12,000, some are 12,000.
Okay, so they haven't made the full allocation available.
Basically.
So what's the reason behind that? Is it like a security?
Can't really tell much. I can't really say. I got no idea, to be fair.
Hopefully it's like a band around the stadium and not just one stand.
No. It's. I can give you a screenshot if you like. Not a screenshot. I can share the screen for you guys if you guys like.
Yeah, go for it.
This the sort of seats they're trying to sell is. I'm going to present.
Because we're not. I don't think we're. Yeah. Oh yeah. There you go. Yeah.
So all the the blue things are out for sale.
Yeah.
The first kind of row, from 10 to from 1 to 18, basically, which is somewhere near 12, or I can't remember correctly because the sectors 4, 5, 7, and 8 aren't also for sale because UEFA doesn't allow people to sit here. yeah, basically just under 15,000 seats are up for sale, which is, I'm sure like some of them are sold out already, as you can see here as well.
Okay, right.
But yeah, they're not. Yeah, some of the seats are left still here. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not full, but yeah, I'm convinced it will be sold out. So yeah, that's the way it works. So it will be those seats are going to be sold out definitely, but it will not be a sellout of the 54,000 seat Dinamo Arena definitely.
So what kind of atmosphere will we be expecting there then? Is it going to be? Is it around the atmosphere? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, I reckon because Gori is like an hour and 10 minutes away from Tbilisi, so I reckon loads of people could come in from Gori. So it will be a decent atmosphere because the stadium is huge as well. Like it's a big stadium, so obviously the sound kind of works. It keeps it up as much as possible. So I reckon it will be a decent atmosphere. Not as crazy as it might be in Cyprus at times, but yeah, there will be some noises made, obviously. So
yeah. I mean, so because obviously in Cyprus we've got as much as we try to not discuss politics in football,
yeah,
there are organized fan groups that like to involve politics in football. Is there that kind of thing happening in Georgia as well?
at times it'd say so because the country is divided into two basically in terms of politics as well. So if there's not always, but if there's someone like trying to criticize either the government and stuff like that, they go like, "Oh, you're not in for the government, you're not in for the country," and stuff like that. So the politics definitely play its part in terms of the way people do their stuff. That's one, and support teams. That's the other as well. So
yeah.
I guess that could be a factor with every single country in the world because politics play a huge part in.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. So.
Even if we try to separate it, it always
Yeah.
gets involved.
As much as you say like politics out of football, sports not on football, that sometimes that is still a factor. Unfortunately,
of course.
Unfortunately for football.
Yeah, I mean the reason why I'm kind of zigzagging to what I'm trying to ask is, I'm going to explain it as an Apoel fan. We have ultras that are crazy. So I'll go back to a couple of games before the end of the second game before the end of the season where Apoel were playing Apollon. I was there in the stadium in Limassol and right next to the ultras, and then Apollon scored a goal which kind of handed the title to Aris, and just chairs started raining onto the pitch.
Yeah.
I hightailed it out of there because apparently we scored we scored a goal. We kind of got a goal back from that. But yeah, is there the chance of something like that happening? Is kind of what I'm trying to get to.
I'm convinced it won't be a factor.
Yeah.
I'm convinced it won't be a thing in Georgia, definitely. Because I remember the game I mentioned before, Dila Gori versus Orthosis in 2012. I think it was interrupted on the 82nd minute, something like that, because fans went crazy. Like they were mad that the team was down like 3-0 in the second half. So,
fans have got that history. They even did it last season.
That game, it's actually like, although Dila Gori up 3-0, it was given a technical defeat to Apoel. It was not like the game ended 3-0. It was basically, if that game was 2-0 or 1-0, it would have gone 3-0 eventually. So it's kind of funny. But that's that in Georgia. That was a thing previously in just before like 2015 between Dinamo Tbilisi and Torpedo Kutaisi supporters. Every single game, every single time they played in Tbilisi, in Kutaisi, or somewhere in the cup final or something like that, chairs, people bleeding, people fighting prior to the game. People went onto the pitch a few times and kicked a few football players as well. So that used to be a factor, but not as much now as it was years ago.
So I'm going to put you on the spot there. So what was the solution for that? Like what changed to change that?
It may sound kind of sad, but the solution was that the football got worse, so less and less people started attending. Less and less people were into that, oh, we should die for your team kind of mentality. Because obviously you should be sticking with the team you love since you're like 7, 8, or 10. But yeah, that kind of love to football, to clubs, and to history of the club slowly but surely kind of died away, mainly because how poor the club's been performing for years and years. And although it's still a thing, because still people from Kutaisi hate people from Tbilisi. People hate guys, supporters from Kutaisi. There's always fighting. There's always like this brawling kind of atmosphere. But it's not, again, like the main reason why it's not as big and as violent as it was like 10 years ago is because football lost its relevance as much as it had in those times, in those years, which is unfortunate, which is sad for me as a supporter, because even to this day I go to, let's say, a good chunk of domestic football games, and I try to attend clubs that play either in Batumi, in Dila Gori, or anywhere outside Tbilisi, the city I live in. Even though that upsets me as a person, as a supporter of the nation, as a supporter of the league in general, that's how it is right now, and hopefully it will change. Or I don't mean like I don't want it to be violent as it was. I want the supporters to be involved.
Things will improve. Yeah, people will get more involved. Yeah, of course.
True.
Yeah. So you mentioned obviously you go to a lot of games.
Yeah.
Are you like me where you were? I tried when I first started to kind of maintain like I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible. I don't support anyone, or do you have a team that you support?
Yeah, I mean, Dinamo Tbilisi is a team I support since I was like 5. I mean, the first football game Tbilisi game, obviously, but last week I went to Gori to watch and support Gori. I was happy for them, rooted for them, because again, like if you think in more like global kind of perspective, we're not blessed with footballing success at all. And if a team makes the group stage, it doesn't matter from which city it is and how big the club is. It's a huge event for Georgian football, and obviously I'd be happy to either watch the game on television or at the stadium. And last season we went to Batumi, which is like a 6-hour ride from Tbilisi, to watch Dinamo Batumi lose 2-1 to Slovan Bratislava on the 119th and 122nd minute goals. So
man,
it was harsh, but that was kind of harsh, but that's football sometimes.
That kind of happens a little bit in Cyprus as well. I think it happened with Anorthosis when they got into the group stages. Anorthosis ended up playing Chelsea in London. And I think there was more Cypriots than Chelsea fans in the stadium when they ended up playing. I think it was like 4-2. Was it 4-2? I think it was, yeah. And the atmosphere there was crazy, and it wasn't just Anorthosis fans. You had all kinds of people attending. So yeah, I think
that's what happened when Apoel played Spurs as well. I think Wembley was it at Wembley? Was it at Wembley? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
Was it White Hart Lane?
It would have been White Hart Lane.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, you know, if it's Tottenham or Arsenal, half the supporters are Cypriots anyway. So, yeah, but yeah, let's get behind the clubs, man. Let's get behind them. Like we've got a Discord channel, both for No Choftes and This Is Mappa, and there's a couple of people on those channels that are don't like Aris. So to kind of see it's like, no, you want your teams in the country to do well, to lift that coefficient up, and then that means that 1, the country gets more coverage, and 2, the clubs get an easier ride through European qualifications later down the line. So, on that, does the coefficient for Georgia, has that gone up following the performances, or has it gone down?
This season, I mean, how to put this? So there's a period in time in Georgian football where the government started funding football. It's not crazy. It's definitely not crazy. I mean, I'd say like compared to Cyprus, it's probably like 10% of what teams have got as the budget in Cyprus, I reckon. But since the government started funding Georgian football, our coefficients every single season were lower than the years before, which kind of sounds weird because there is a bit more money, but the teams have lost quality, lost competitiveness, and it leveled itself out, the teams, but the level got lower. It's kind of leveled, it's kind of even, but the league level is lower. And because of that, like teams failed to qualify even to the group stages, and 2 or 3 times when our teams were seeded, and ideally faced, and in theory faced teams who could have been weaker because they were unseeded. They lost emphatically. Even like Dinamo Tbilisi lost against Klaksvik 6-1 in 2020, which was that was one of the darkest days in the history of club, because no offense to Klaksvik, but losing to a team from Faroe Islands at the time, 6-1 was a shocking result for us.
Well, I mean, saying that, but looking at Klaksvik this season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly, I'm rooting for that team so much because the story behind them and the way they play and the teams they've knocked out and the way they played on those games was amazing. And I'm happy for them to make the conference group stage is guaranteed, and hopefully they go further in Champions League as well. I think they drew against Molde, didn't they? Or not sure what they did.
I don't know. I've not seen the results for tonight.
Yeah, Klaksvik actually won.
They won.
They won. Yeah, 2-1.
Fantastic. Might seem Europa League group stages.
Yeah, I mean, it could be the Champions League as well.
Yeah, imagine that. Klaksvik versus Manchester United. Who are you going to support, Stel, when that happens?
Whoever wins.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, European competitions, especially this season, I think have proven to have provided some surprises.
Yeah,
hopefully, there isn't a surprise on Thursday. I just put that out there.
You saying that as an Apoel fan?
I'm saying that as an Apoel fan, but I'm also a fan of Cypriot football, because we've got to get that coefficient up, man.
Well, this is it. It's a double-edged sword for me, because I don't want you lot to go anywhere near the bloody group stages. I want you lot to go out of business, to be honest. But
that might still happen.
It might. It might.
Yeah.
It might. But you never. Yeah, but the thing is, Luka, are teams in Georgia as financially messed up as Apoel are?
They are messed up. They are messed up.
But at Apoel's level?
Apoel's level in terms of being messed up, or being on the level of finances? What do you mean? Go on.
Apoel's finances, I've spoken about this quite a bit, but in essence, they're on minus 60-something million euros. And
what?
That includes, because of the negative equity.
Right.
Well that they've got.
Crikey.
So it's not just the loans, it's all the negative equity.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. They're not that big money in Georgian football at all. That's one, but there's only one team in the league that has actually got a plus in their finances, that they're actually making profit. It's actually Dila Gori. Sounds weird because the team they've got is as I said before, they've got a 9th biggest wage bill. So definitely they're underpaying the players. But they're the only team that actually made revenue for the past 2 years, and other teams are minuses, but not definitely not 60 million, something like that. Definitely not.
I've got the number here: 62,244,076 euros.
That would be enough to fund Georgian football for 20 years, if not more.
Yeah. Well, I'll just tell you the next worst, Stel, is Omonia, but it's almost half. It's 37 million and something negative.
We can control it.
Yeah.
Well, president can anyway.
As long as you guys make the group stages, then you're sorted. At least some kind of finances. But here, not even close. not even close.
Yeah.
Luka, in terms of football journalism in Georgia, are they fanatics? Are they mad about the sport? Because when I did a preview of Omonia against Gabala, I spoke to a journalist from Azerbaijan, and he couldn't really tell me a lot about Gabala because there was a lot of players coming and going. But then I had journalists in Azerbaijan asking me questions about Cypriot clubs. But then when I looked on their websites, their news websites, they didn't cover football in Azerbaijan at all, which made it even more difficult to find information. So is at Georgian Footy the main source of Georgian football?
On Twitter, yes, but not so the sole purpose of me doing the account is I'm not a journalist. I just enjoy doing this as a supporter to bring at least a small chunk of Georgian football to the world, and I've been doing it somewhat decently throughout the 2 years I'm on the platform. And I was just like, there are accounts covering football from Cyprus, from Luxembourg, from Moldova, from Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. So why not? They're not anything associated with Georgian football. So that was the main reason I started doing this. And I got some interest from people. I got asked a few questions like you guys as well. Now, this is probably like my 20th podcast, and I've said no to 30 because I don't really have much time covering other leagues. So that's a different case. But again, I mean, I'm not as a journalist, definitely not a journalist. I try to put myself outside that groups because I do this because I like it, and I don't want to be allocated by a company that will make me do stuff, because I'm doing this at my own pace, by my own will, posting stuff I like. And again, this account doesn't portray Georgian football, but it just shows an opinion of a guy who's been following Georgian football for the past 10 to 12 years, something like that. And apart from that, there are a few decently sized accounts on Instagram who do a decent job. They try to film vlogs and try to show some inside things, try to give some details about the players, about the clubs, and those kind of things are kind of that's a close kind of circle. It's not for everyone, if that makes sense. I guess that's the case with other countries in other leagues and stuff like that. So, and especially Georgia as a whole is not a big country. There's not that big of a coverage by TV shows. Even a fun thing is I'm sure it should be the thing in Cyprus. Teams get paid for TV rights probably in Cyprus.
Yeah, they've all got a TV deal.
Yeah, teams in Georgia actually pay the broadcasters to stream their games.
Oh wow!
Which is it's sickening for me to think about that, because TV rights are one of the highest revenue, one of the highest earners for teams. But in here, especially the international tournaments, teams have to pay the broadcasters to show that their team playing against whoever team they're playing in Europe. So.
Well, surely it would make more sense if they streamed it on their YouTube channel, for crying out loud.
They stream the domestic league on YouTube. All the games are free, available on the platform. But the games they show, even the game between Dila Gori and Vorskla Poltava, in the last round, I've watched it the way I watched it via stream from the Ukrainian side. And in here, it was the Georgian Football Federation streamed it as well as on a StreamYard, I think it was, or whatever. Not a StreamYard, it was I think it was Vimeo or something like that. Can't remember. But it was just on the platform. It was not on the TV or anything.
Wow.
I mean, if you have smart TV, you can turn it off. That's definitely, but it's not available to watch on cable television or whatever that is.
Yeah, get that
Incredible.
Fire Stick still.
Yeah.
Put that Fire Stick on.
Oh, I can get Georgian TV. I can get it. I know a guy. No, because it's incredible because with us, in Cyprus, there are 3 broadcasters. You've got Sita, Vision, CableNet, and PrimeTel, and every club has got one deal with one of these
That's how it should be.
broadcasters.
And all the clubs negotiate separately. So it's not like Premier League, for instance, where it's all like all the clubs negotiate their deals separately as well.
Yeah. But also, with us, we're not journalists. Like similar situation to you, we just follow the Cypriot league. But I can't imagine how many people we've actually pissed off with what we're doing because we dig out people, mate. But it's not just. I mean, journalists, we don't really have a pop at. It's the clubs and their social media because it's so bad. It's so bad. There's a few clubs that are good, but the rest of it is bad. It's really bad.
I mean, that's how it is nowadays on social media, I guess. That's why, for me personally, I don't use anything apart from Twitter, like any social media apart from Twitter, because it's such a unrelaxing kind of thing, is it? It doesn't give you chill. Like Twitter, obviously the algorithm has changed and there are a few accounts that I've got like no interest in following, but they pop up on my page. But apart from that, it's still like that circle where you get the infos and you get the news and you get the content you 60 or 70% of the time you like and you want to follow, which I guess it's the reason why guys like me and you and other people who follow on Twitter are doing what they're doing, because this is a group of it's a big community of people who just like football. Doesn't matter if it's Premier League or the Bundesliga. It could be the second Portuguese division or the third Latvian football tier. So it doesn't really matter. It's just because people just like football and want to cover, want to get to know players and the leagues and the clubs. So
of course, and I know that this might be a bit of a rhetorical question, but since your mate at Napoli has been smashing it, has it had an impact on your account?
It did, definitely. I've been inactive for the past since basically January because I had some other kind of issues in my life. But apart from that, the account started to get more interactions, more impressions. Since basically he was rumored, then it was reported that he's going to be joining Napoli, which was by the end of April last year, and he basically took off since the day he signed for the club. Goals, assists, flashy moments, and followers and the interactions came in thick and fast after that. So he helped me a lot, definitely helped me a lot, and I'm grateful for that. Definitely.
Well, we're still waiting for our Cypriot player to make some kind of.
Hit us, yeah.
But he's 27 though. He's 27.
It's
27.
fine.
I mean, Jamie Vardy was 27 when he went to the Prem, so.
Yeah, there you go.
Because the thing is, I've got a friend called Daryl Willard, and Daryl was.
He follows. I had a chat with him quite a few times.
So that Daryl was tweeting about I can't pronounce his surname. I'm sorry, bro. I don't want to butcher. I just call him Varadona. I call him Varadona, right? So and Daryl was tweeting about him for ages, saying this lad is something special, and then he gets his move to Napoli, and he was like, I've been telling you guys that he's special. So yeah.
Again, man, that's how it is. Not only me, like other guys who followed the league for years before knew how special he was, and whenever he took off and we got the media attention of the Western media, if that makes sense. Now it was like, I mean, you're surprised, but we're here. We knew this years before, so that's. But
this is it, man. Because I'm not going to lie to you. Ever since we started doing this podcast, I mean, I did it about a year before Thasso jumped on, but since I've been doing Cypriot football, I've actually got fed up with Premier League and the big leagues. I've actually paid more notice to the more what's the word?
Obscure content.
leagues. Yeah. And it's actually more enjoyable because it's less
Definitely.
toxic. It's
Definitely.
less toxic. You see more talent, and I actually enjoy the Conference League even more now because these clubs are so, you never heard of them, but it's our little thing. It's our little community.
Definitely.
We ain't the big boys, but this is our community. Yeah.
This is not like no dig to Prem or La Liga or something like that. It's not like a bandwagon in trend, is it? You just like football and you like those smaller nations who, even like if someone told me like 4 years ago you'd be happy for a team from Faroe Islands doing well, it was like, no, definitely not. But here we are, like Klaksvik are a game away from the Champions League playoffs. And who's going to say no? I wish them going through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we've, I'm sure you're the same. We've made so many friends from different
Definitely.
countries
Definitely.
through doing this. It's incredible. Man.
Yeah, one of my best mates actually reached out to me because of my Twitter account. He's an Englishman who lives in Georgia, and he was like, "Oh mate, let's do like a channel together." We start off a YouTube channel, but we don't really have much time to do all that well this year, unfortunately. I was like, "Oh, let's do some podcasts, let's do some videos, let's shoot some vlogs and stuff like that," and we kind of just basically build that. At first, that like kind of team relationship, and then now we're like he's like one of my closest mates. And apart from him, like the people we interact with on daily basis, you may even know on like eye to eye, but you know him as a person by just chatting with him for good few hours per day, maybe at times. So that's I mean that's the best part of football. It unites people from all the random places in the world, just because of one simple thing, which is the beautiful game, is it? So
absolutely. Well, Luka, bro, I know it's 2:00 in the morning where you are, and thank you so much for joining us, man. We really appreciate it.
It's really nice thing to end it on, isn't it?
Yeah.
Beautiful game brings everybody together.
Yeah.
Of course. There you go. There you go. All right, Thasso, I'll let you do the honors.
No, yeah. So I've got about Luka. Do you want to again? Would you want to promote Georgian Footy?
Just follow me at Georgian Footy on Twitter and drop them guys as well. Yeah. All right.
Yes. So on our end, we'll get the plugs out on our end as well. We've got the Instagram, we've got the Twitter, we've got the Facebook groups, we've got the Discord chats. All of it's going to be linked at the bottom there. I'm at Affles Gaffes on Twitter, X, and Instagram. Stel is everywhere.
You can't find me.
You'd be able to find him. You'd be able to find him if you look properly.
If you look properly,
yeah.
Don't look properly.
But yeah, that was Mappa.
It was and it is.
It is.